Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. Now, in 2021, Marvel released not one, not two, but 9 different things. 5 TV shows, and 4 films. That's a lot of stuff. And you're probably wondering, like, how do you keep track of that many things? Because I've never known one studio to pump out that much stuff for a singular thing in one given year. And we all know that the reason for half of this stuff being released in 2021 was because of COVID in 2020, which is not fun for anybody. For anybody. So, what I and Sawyer here have decided to do is something very simple. We are doing this one big collab that is split equally over my channel and his channel, where we talk about everything that Marvel released in 2021. Literally everything. We're going to be here a while, but we'll try and make this as enjoyable for you as it is for us watching the things. So, this is how it's going to work. On my channel right now, we are talking about just the films, the 4 films that Marvel released in 2021. And then on Sawyer's channel, you will be able to watch the video where we discuss all the TV shows that Marvel released. Sounds pretty straightforward, and that's because it is, but I hope you enjoy it. I'm trying to get through this as quickly as possible because we got a lot to talk about. So yeah, and as I mentioned, Sawyer is with me for this one because I couldn't do it on my own, and I think both of us are looking forward to this one. Do you have anything to say before we get into this? I know I've kind of rambled this intro, but we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, I'm just real excited to finally do another collab, and I think how it came about is, we were just spitballing ideas on to potentially do a collab on something, and this just seemed like such a no-brainer to do since they released so much. And if someone didn't check out all of our videos, they can just check out this one to see our basic thoughts on all the different Marvel stuff. So I'm excited. Let's do it.
That being said, though, both this video and the video that will be on Sawyer's channel will contain spoilers for literally everything we're going to talk about, whether it's the TV shows or the films. We're going full spoilers on this one. So, the first movie we're going to talk about, because we're doing this in release order, is Black Widow, which came out at the start of 2021. And this, as most of you will probably know, was very highly anticipated by a lot of people, myself and Sawyer included, because pretty much since her introduction in Iron Man 2, Black Widow always seemed like a character that needed her own film, but never seemed to get one. And now that her character's dead, they decided to make a film about her, which I still find very strange to this point. I'm going to kick things off with you, Sawyer. In a nutshell, what are your thoughts on Black Widow? If you were to just wrap it up in a cohesive thing.
Yeah, so the thing about it is a lot of the anticipation hype, like you were mentioning, mostly came to the fact that this was the first Marvel project in about 2 years, because Spider-Man Far From Home was the last Marvel thing really released movie-wise. We did get 2 shows, but the theatrical experience, that's how long it's been, that big gap. So that was a lot of our hype, and upon watching it, I don't want to be like this, but I basically think of it as filler the movie because it just felt like they made it because the actor wanted to have her own movie, and they wanted to just make a movie to make money. It didn't feel like there was no purpose. It didn't feel like a need, especially since you know what happens to her characters, and it's a prequel. And I always think prequels are a waste of time for the most part. There are exceptions, but I just felt like this was just a waste. And a lot of the stuff they did, like with Taskmaster, they ruined that character.
Oh,
the villain was...
Don't get me started.
Can't even remember on the real villain, because that's not the real villain. There's this bald old white guy, or whatever, that's the real villain.
I don't think I hate Black Widow, but it's definitely the definition of disappointing. If I had to sum up the word disappointing in a film, Black Widow is probably that. But Florence Pugh, for me, is probably one of the best things in the film, because, I don't know, she feels like she's just doing her own thing, and it just works.
I do have to say, what they did to the Nirvana song "Smells Like Teen Spirit" was gross. They ruined that song, and I should have known the movie would be bad just from that. But I wanted to give it more of a chance, but I should have trusted my gut. All right, enough.
I was slightly intrigued when it opened because that whole prologue bit and everything that was happening after that almost felt like it was kind of giving us the MCU's equivalent of like a Jason Bourne film. But then the more it went on, I was just like, it kind of doesn't know what to do with it, and it just kept... I think the best way to describe this film is that it just meanders. Like, it doesn't know where it's trying to go, and then when it gets to the conclusion, it's just like, oh, that was kind of pointless. And the whole film kind of feels like the MCU would not be affected as a whole if this film did or did not exist, if that makes sense. It's kind of just there. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. It's filler the movie.
You can tell from mine and Sawyer's reaction, we don't really have much to say about this film. It could have been really good, and there was a point near the start, like I said, that it felt like it was almost going to be pretty decent, but it just ended up kind of going nowhere. It is a real shame, considering what this movie could have been. And funnily enough, after I watched it, I messaged a friend of mine about the fact that I'd just seen it, and he summed this film up perfectly in a nutshell. He said, the tone and everything about the film feels like a Phase 1 movie. Like, it doesn't feel like it fits in Phase 4, and the fact that this is the first movie that kicks off Phase 4 is not a good sign.
Oh, my.
But after he said that, I kind of see what he means. Like, this feels more like something along the lines of Captain America, the First Avenger, rather than, a Phase 4 film, which is meant to be something slightly different. But I don't know. I think you can tell from our reactions we were not massive fans of this film. Right, so after Black Widow, we then got a couple of TV shows, and there was a little bit of a break in terms of films. But the next film that we got, which was released in September last year, was Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which I think for me was like the first or second film that I was able to actually see in a cinema last year. I don't know about you, but this film is kind of brilliant. I love Shang-Chi. There is so much... I don't know where to start with this one. There's just so much I love about the film. Whether it's the performances, the way the film looks. I quite like classic martial arts films, and the fact that this had a lot of... This drew a lot from films like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon and those sorts of films. The fact that it felt like that, I thought was really well done. This is just a really good movie. What do you think of it?
All that, and plus what made me really love it was the emotional relationship between the father and son, because I always love that type of stuff in movies. Guardians 2 having a lot of that type of emotion, and this, like, we got a villain that has a great motivation. You feel so bad for them, but they're kind of crazy. So you know that you shouldn't be rooting for them, but in a way you understand why they're doing it, so you just are sitting there wanting to see it play out because you understand both sides of the coin. And of course, like you said, the fight sequences, that bus scene that they show in the trailers, I wish they didn't show that in the trailers because that would have been such a cool surprise to see in the theater. But that was great. The fist fighting, the flashbacks, because usually flashbacks can be kind of iffy with the movie, but I love the flashbacks in this movie. The music was great. The surprises in it, like Trevor Slattery, Sir Ben Kingsley. I was not expecting that. I knew he'd be in it when I saw him at the world premiere, but I can't believe they actually brought him back. So that meant that one-off little comic, what was it, All Hail the King or something? That was actually canon. So that was great. That faceless puppy thing, I don't even know what that was with the wings. That was cute.
Yeah.
Awkwafina, this was the best I've ever seen her in. For Ocean's, 8 or something? The whatever that got her popularity going. I hated that movie. I didn't really like her in it, so I thought she was overrated there. I never saw the Crazy Rich Asians, but seeing Raya and the Last Dragon, I was like, okay. And then seeing this, I was like, okay. And yeah, I'm just happy for her. And fun fact, real quick, a little tangent. I heard that she's the reason why the main guy who plays Shang-Chi got his role. It was because of her.
Simu Liu?
Yeah, she was the one that showed him to the studios to pick him.
Okay. Okay, I've got newfound respect for her, for Aquafina now, because I'm going to be honest. Before this film, I was kind of like you. I wasn't a massive fan. I thought she was good in The Farewell, but I was not a fan of her performance, voice performance in Raya and the Last Dragon. I'm kind of like you though. I kind of think this might be her best performance because, for one, I did not find her annoying in this film.
She was hilarious too.
Yeah, every line she has is legitimately funny, whereas something like Raya and the Last Dragon, I thought her stuff was coming off a little bit too, like it was too much a little bit at times. Whereas this, it was just right, and she bounces off of Simu Liu like really well. Like their chemistry is ridiculously good. And that's another thing. Simu Liu, considering he hasn't really been in much before this, he's really, really good in the main role. It kind of the way he portrays his character makes him feel like he's been an actor for years. But this is probably, I think this is one of the first major films he's been in. He really has not been in much before this, and I really, really liked his performance. I just really like this film. There is one moment that is like a really small moment in the film that I do really like, and again, it goes back to what we were saying about the action sequences being really well done, and I think you really like this bit too, is the bit, I think it's one of the flashbacks where it's in a restaurant and the bad guy takes young Shang-Chi to like a restaurant to take out some people that have done him wrong, and the camera just turns to a mirror and you see the entire thing from a reflection.
That was in my top 10 favorite movie or entertainment moments. That was in my top 10 favorite entertainment moments. That sequence, because I just thought it was really good.
Like no offense to people that love the MCU. Like me and Sawyer are two of those people, but there can be times where you are watching an MCU film and the action sequence... Black Widow's a good example, I guess. But you can be watching like the fight sequences and it kind of seems like stuff we've seen a million times before, and it can feel a bit uninteresting. Whereas Shang-Chi is probably the first film in quite a while in the MCU that feels like they were trying a few new things. And even though that moment in the restaurant is a very small moment, it's... I don't know, it's just something you don't really see that much, where it's just a simple idea of the camera facing the opposite direction into a mirror. But it's just really well done. I think, basically, you can tell from that me and Sawyer both really, really like it. It's one of those films, like, I would have loved to have seen it more than once in the cinema, but, you know, COVID's still a thing. But it's one of those films where, like, I saw it once and immediately wanted to see it again, because... yeah, it might not be perfect in a few places, and you could nitpick this film for days, but it's just so much fun. So yeah, Black Widow, not very good. Shang-Chi, really good. The next one, I think we got a lot to talk about for this one. The next one is Eternals, directed by Chloe Zhao, director of the Oscar-winning Nomadland. I am not a massive fan of this one, whereas Sawyer, on the other hand, really likes it.
I really do.
So yeah, I don't know where to start on this one. I don't know if you want to take the reins by saying what you did like about the film, and then I can come in and kind of ruin the video by just saying what I didn't like.
So the thing about this movie is, for one, like, it just felt so grand in scope that alone made it worth the viewing experience, especially in IMAX, because I legitimately thought this movie would do mad box office, because I went on a Sunday because that was like my only real day off, and Sundays aren't usually as busy as Friday and Saturdays. We had to sit in the very first row. Everything was sold out. So I was like, okay. Like, it was more packed than Shang-Chi was. So I was legitimately thinking this movie would do bonkers. but I really love the just like I don't know. It came down to like seeing these characters like just really dives into the creation on what the Eternals are and the lore and seeing their big power scopes and just a lot of people I know complained about them jumping between to and from time and stuff. But I thought that stuff was handled better than a lot of people thought it was because I really just enjoyed seeing these different times in history because I am kind of a history guy, so seeing these different periods, but obviously with the Marvel type in there.
No, I love a bit of history as well, and funnily enough, even though I'm not a massive fan of the film, that's not something that bugged me. Like, I'm surprised you bring that up because I was absolutely fine with the whole bouncing back and forth between.
That's the main critique people had, though, if you read their reviews.
If anything, I actually quite appreciate.
Because it was confusing for them.
Yeah, if anything, I actually appreciated that aspect of the film and thought I actually wanted to see more of it because I felt like they were just barely scratching the surface in that film, but I wanted to see more of that. But yeah, trust me, that I have a lot more issues with the film than that. That's actually something I do like about the film.
The main thing is like obviously seeing them where they've all gone since then and them reuniting was nice and all, but the main core of the movie was who turned out to be the main bad guy. I guess a lot of people found that predictable, but I was legitimately shocked, and I was like, no way, because I thought going in, I thought it was just gonna be another bland MCU villain like Black Widow with the deviants. But find out who the real villain is, because they are a villain, but the real villain, I was like, no way. And just seeing the emotional turmoil between all the characters, because they've known each other for hundreds of thousands of years or whatever. So I don't know, just seeing all of that, it just felt really satisfying to watch.
I completely understand where you're coming from with all of those things, but unfortunately for me, and it's a shame because I really was looking forward to this film because I think you'll agree with me here. I really liked Nomadland, which was Chloe Zhao's last film that won Best Picture.
Yeah, I liked it as well.
I really liked it and was really looking forward to Eternals because I was like, I'm really intrigued because I don't know about you, but Nomadland almost feels like a documentary with how it's shot. It doesn't feel like acted scenes. It just feels like these are real people and you're just observing these moments. And I was really intrigued as to how that style of hers would translate to the MCU. And unfortunately, for me personally, I feel like that's one of the issues of the film, is that her style of directing and filming stuff doesn't translate to something that has such grand ideas and is trying to show something that spans decades. Like, for me, like I said a minute ago, the whole idea of bouncing back and forth between time is an aspect I wanted to see more of in the film. But in the movie, the way that it kind of meanders between different events and different characters, which is typical Chloe Zhao stuff, I just thought didn't quite meld together with all the grand ideas and the massive stakes that happened towards the back end of the movie. On top of that, I thought the cast of the film, especially the main 10 actors playing the Eternals, I thought was a 50-50 split with their performances.
Oh yeah, I will agree with that.
Yeah, because you've got Gemma Chan playing Cersei, she was good, and you've got Richard Madden playing Icarus, and at times I thought he was good, but other times I thought he was very wooden. The same goes for Salma Hayek.
I was thinking that, but I don't know. Like eventually, like it started like that, but I kind of grew on to really appreciate his performance. So I felt like that at the beginning, but after a while, and it does make sense because for a while, he was kind of isolated, right? So I guess it sort of makes sense. That's what he was going for. Is he's not really that good with people because he isolated himself for a couple hundred years or whatever.
I think the other thing for me is that, especially considering the literal week before I'd seen Dune, which is 2.5 hours, fairly slowly paced, but I thought was really, like, it managed to fit the whole story in that time frame. Yeah, I thought it worked for the sake, like, I know sometimes you can see the length of a film and kind of go, blimey, does it need to be that long? But I thought Dune did it really well. Eternals, considering it's kind of the exact same length as Dune, I thought it had the other issue that I thought Dune was going to have, which is it's 2.5 hours long and it feels 2.5 hours long, and it kind of dragged for me in a few places, whereas Dune kept my attention for the entire runtime. Eternals just felt like it kept going and going. I was like, okay, there's only so much more you can keep doing with this. But then at the same time, it felt like, again, they were barely scratching the surface with everything with Eternals. It's this weird 50-50 split where it's like, it was dragging, but I also kind of wanted to see them do more with it in that time frame, because I feel like there was a lot of missed potential in the film. The last MCU film to be released last year was the big one, and I mean that in more ways than one because it is currently the highest grossing film of last year. Spider-Man No Way Home, which opened in December of 2021, directed once again by John Watts.
He did his trilogy. I think he's the first one to do the trilogy in the MCU. So that was great.
Yeah, I think he is the first one because the Russo brothers only directed 2 of the Captain America films.
They directed 2 of the Avengers films.
Yeah, Jon Favreau only directed 2 Iron Man films. So yeah, John Watts is the first to actually complete a full-blown trilogy. I don't think there's much we can say that we haven't already said.
Yeah, which is
we both
good.
love this film.
Yeah, we did.
we both absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Because for a long... outside of Shang-Chi being a really enjoyable film, my overall thought on what Marvel released as a whole throughout 2021, I was kind of thinking, is this really how they're going to go out? You know, one good film and a few decent TV shows and a few male ones. And then Spider-Man comes along.
Oh my.
And I'm just like, okay, you've immediately jumped to, like, near the top of my best of the year list.
Yeah, you reached, like, endgame level of talk and stuff. Because me going in, because it's pretty much common knowledge about Toby and Andrew, but them not marketing it, even though all the leaks and stuff, I thought would be one of the dumbest decisions in marketing history, because I thought the movie would do so much better with them marketed, and I still kind of believe that. I thought it could have hit 300 million with them in the marketing, but 260 million opening weekend, oh my god.
Yeah, because when Endgame came out, it was kind of treated like this event, and that's not to say that Spider-Man's not being treated the same way.
Oh, it definitely is, especially with
after the ending that Infinity War had, everyone was just so curious to see, like, how are they gonna rectify that in the next one, which I think is why Endgame is currently... Am I right in saying that is still the highest grossing film of all time?
Avatar passed it again when they re-released it in China. But it's by like...
There's a reason why it was. There's a reason why
it deserved to still be. It was bullshit. We're talking about box office and stuff instead of the actual movie. Sorry, it's just I'm real fascinated about all that. I just love how, like, it brought back all the villains and heroes, and it didn't just do it in a fan service way, like something of a Jurassic World or whatever would do. What it did was it actually had a good story thread about them on how they're all like damaged people, and they all have like a mental illness in some way, and Spider-Man's trying to cure them and heal them. And I just thought that whole thing was perfect, and I just thought how they all, like, their interactions with their Spider-Man, I thought was beautiful. The fights were great. I'm trying to sum it up quickly, but...
I mean, I completely agree with you on that sense, because as soon as I saw that first trailer where you saw Doc Ock and you saw Green Goblin's pumpkin bomb, I was just like, I really hope they do more with those characters than just them being in 1 or 2 scenes, because I don't know about you, but especially the Raimi villains, they're just so... I don't know, there's something about them in their own films that just works so well that them being in anything else was a bit worrying, because I was just like, Doc Ock was perfect in Spider-Man 2. There is no way you can add on to that. And the same goes for Willem Dafoe as the Green Goblin. And I was really worried about, like, what can you possibly add to these characters that wasn't there in the first film they were in? And then No Way Home showed that you can actually still add stuff while still maintaining the integrity of what these characters had in the first place. Even the Amazing Spider-Man villains, which were not that memorable in their first appearances, but
They were so much
have
better
been,
in this movie.
yeah, but
That-
both Dr. Connors as the Lizard and
Electro.
Max Dillon as Electro, both of them were improved like 10 times more than they were in their own films. But yeah, like Sawyer said, the villains are done justice. The scenes with them are really good, and the scenes where they meet their Spider-Man is really good. It's just a really, really good film, and I think both of us can agree that this is probably Tom Holland's best performance.
A
as
lot of people are
Spider-Man.
saying he should get an Oscar nomination. I don't know about all that, but he was great. Like,
He's because like I've liked him in all of the Marvel films he's been in, but I kind of agree with everyone by saying that like it kind of felt like the Spider-Man aspect of Peter Parker was missing. Like, yeah, he was good, but he still has that youthful. He almost felt like Spider-Boy.
that's what everyone's been saying. Poor guy.
Yeah, for the majority of the MCU stuff he's been in, but this was the first one where he's properly made that transition to the same sort of maturity level as the previous two on-screen Spider-Men that we've seen, where he genuinely now feels like a full-fledged Spider-Man, and it's really interesting because a lot of people kind of knew Tom Holland when he joined the MCU. I've been following his career for quite a
The
while.
Impossible.
Yeah, I remember seeing that film when it opened in 2012. Believe it or not, that's how old that film is.
He was really good there.
Yeah, I remember being blown away by his performance in that film, and immediately was like, I want to see more of him. And then gradually seeing him in other stuff popping up throughout the years, and then having him, result in this, probably his best performance as Spider-Man, it's just really good. I think my favourite thing, though, as a whole, about No Way Home, and I think, again, you'll agree with me here, Sawyer, is that the whole film, in general, just feels like one big love letter to not just Spider-Man fans, but just Spider-Man as a whole, like what the character stands for, and just his past, his present, and his future. And I just loved that about this film, because it just felt like this is what Spider-Man is as a character. This is his world, and we're just gonna spend the next 2.5 hours appreciating that. And I just really like that about this film. Also, I think these are the best action sequences in the whole of the Tom Holland trilogy, especially the apartment fight. But yeah, Spider-Man No Way Home, without a doubt, I think me and Sawyer, you know from our conversation here, we think it is the best thing that Marvel released last year. No competition. So, as a quick overview, Black Widow, meh, I guess.
Trash.
Yeah, but just not particularly great. Could have been great, but wasn't. Then you have Shang-Chi, which was legitimately really
Phenomenal.
good. Eternals, me and Sawyer have mixed opinions on.
Underrated gem.
He really likes it. I'm not a massive fan, but I'm one of those people that is like, I don't mind giving it another go a few years down the line, maybe to see if my opinion's changed on it. But at this point in time, it could have been a lot better. And then we have Spider-Man No Way Home, which is brilliant. Like,
I loved it so much.
There are no words that, like, we could spend ages gushing about Spider-Man, but because it is that good, but we would be here forever. So that is all the movies that Marvel released last year under the MCU. Like I said at the start of the video, all the TV shows we are going to discuss on Sawyer's channel. So if you want to check that out, go to his channel. There's a link in the description. Go and check out his video on the TV shows. That's probably going to be a long video because they released a lot of stuff last year. So yeah, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye.